Hello and welcome back to Cricbuzz Live. I am Saiyami Kher. I have Zach and Jadeja with me in the house. England have gotten all out for 304. Are they going to be happy? Would they have wanted more? Will India be happy? To answer all this and more, I've got the experts with me. Jadeja, Zach, do you think England's going to be happy with this? Because they've played after quite some time, they've played quintessential traditional ODI cricket.
They should be very, very happy. I know the fine-tuning which we were talking about, the phases of the game, we were talking about that, those moments which they have to win. I think by and large, they managed to secure those moments. And that's the reflection of this scorecard right now. If you look at it, the last 10 overs were not easy on this pitch. So they've done all the other things so right leading up to that, had wickets in hand. So even though things got a little tricky, they still managed to go past 300. And that is what we've been talking about. So if you look at the innings progression, the 11 to 20 is that slow block which we are talking about, which is fine. You know, your focus at that stage was to keep wickets in hand. So that is something which they should take a lot of confidence from. You know, in spite of game going the way it's going on a different pitch, as this pitch is basically typically a pitch where with the new ball you should be positive. You should look to accumulate as many as possible. As the ball gets older, you've seen the skiddy nature of the pitch, the slowish and low bounce nature of the pitch is going to make it that much hard for later on once the ball is older to score at a good pace. So that's the challenge which they had in the last block, which is 40 to 50. And if you see, there was a passage of play where there were about 28, 29 deliveries went without scoring a boundary, which is like 4-5 overs after 40 overs. So now that is something which on a given day is the challenge which is presented. And that's why the difference of 20-30 runs. But up till that point, I think England did something different to what they've been doing, yet staying positive. And that is the credit one should give to this batting innings of England.
Well, like Zach is saying, Jadeja, they started off very well, but the pitch, like he said, kept getting slower. So having said that, having seen the conditions, they will be very pleased with where they have reached so far.
Yeah, they would, again, they'd probably curse themselves for messing it up a little towards the end.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, I think, most importantly, I think today they've played innings, they've planned an innings befitting their personnel and befitting the ground they're on. So normally they're going bang, bang, bang. They didn't. The first two guys went bang, bang, bang in the start, right? But the moment they lost a wicket, Joe Root just kept on playing it around. He built two really big partnerships with Butler, with Brooks. So they've got themselves a lot of batters in the middle order. And then what happens? They know they're a batter short. Livingston comes in, gives them a quick fire 40 in the end. Adil Rashid swings his bat. They get to that total. So my point is exactly that. This suits, you know, when you have 3 all-rounders and bat up to 8, then it's okay to, you know, keep going for it. But given what batting they had, that still 7 they had effective batting, I think they planned their innings much better for that.
Yeah. We'll have a look at England's batting card because they, from the word go, were very good with Duckett getting the runs and then Joe Root coming in and getting that 69. So partnerships at every stage, which is so important in ODI cricket.
It's a different looking scorecard, isn't it? So far, we've not been seeing this in the series. You know, so far we've been saying maybe one batter chipping in, maybe one batter having that kind of impact. But the others were failing to keep up the tempo for various reasons, trying to be ultra aggressive, you know, all those kind of things which we've been seeing. That approach was not seen today. You know, there was a conscious effort of absorbing pressure. There was conscious effort of saying that, okay, if I take many deliveries to get my iron, it's fine. And that example was Brook. I think, you know, Brook tried hard to secure the crease for longer time rather than giving emphasis to big shots. I think that was the key template today, and that was a good positive change from this English batting lineup on this series. The first time we've seen that kind of effort being made and getting a decent result also out of it. You know, rather than getting out to 240, 250 on a better pitch the other day, if that kind of approach was there on that pitch in the previous game, they would have maybe ended up scoring 330. And that is something which today's scorecard shows, that in spite of conditions being challenging in the back 10, you still managed to go past 300.
Well, Jadeja, the way Duckett started, they got Jadeja Aksar in much later because he was, when someone says aggressive brand of cricket, he was playing aggressive cricket but very sensible cricket.
Absolutely. It's that's one thing Duckett does. When he's in form, he plays risk-free cricket but still gets runs, and he's a perfect batter. He and Salt are the perfect batters to put pressure in the first 10. And Zach has repeatedly said that the best batting conditions are in the first 10 overs in these pitches like this. So get in there, get runs there, because once the spinners come, once the pitch slows down, things are going to be very different. So if you notice, they were batting at 7, 7.5, 8 an over. And then it didn't matter that they came down to less than 5.5, 6, because you know that consolidation phase is going to follow. So they didn't then say that, okay, we are going too far behind, let's start hitting early. They know you have only 6 batting. Livingston's batting at 6.
Yes.
I thought he was batting at 7. He's batting actually at 6. So it's a really short batting lineup by their standards. And I think they've taken the best advantage of it. And Duckett gave them the perfect start. They needed Duckett and Salt to give them a big start because the others are going to slow down.
And then once Joe Root came in, we again saw quintessential Joe Root knock, because this is what one would imagine his role in the team should be.
Yeah, I mean, that's a conscious effort. You have one guy playing that anchor role. And if you look at it, what England is trying to do, the conscious effort is Ben Duckett is their good player of spin. He can put spinners under pressure, can set that tone. So if he gets through that first 10, maybe he could have gone a bit longer. Maybe it was just the impulse shot that being in the dominating position, or setting that tone as soon as the left-arm spinner has come on to bowl was evident there. So had he played longer, that also would have made a huge difference. But then Root becomes that important cog in that batting lineup to make sure that everyone rallies around him. He plays his natural game. Just keep the focus on accumulating runs in ones and twos, and then wait for his boundary option. So that's the kind of formula which England should be building on and getting more and more stronger, and getting that confidence up there. Buttler is another class player. So if he's able to contribute consistently, these partnership numbers will only get better. Ideally for them, the platform has to be set for Livingston to launch. And that is the important phase which we are talking about. Today he did contribute well. On a different pitch, I'm telling you, the kind of scenario which was created by England would have been a completely different result. And we did touch upon the fact in the comm box when we were talking about this is maybe the time where Indian bowlers will be tested, because England seems to have the plan of having wickets in hand. And at 15 overs to go or 10 overs to go, you have 7 wickets in hand, makes a huge difference. In terms of psyche of the bowlers also coming in at that stage to be more defensive than aggressive. So I think pretty much a good solid effort by England batters, I would say, for the first time in the series.
Well, just before we get to the Indian bowlers, Joyda, I want to see the partnership stat that was put up right now. We see Root really rooting the partnerships all through. Root and Brook.
4 vital partnerships. And I think one of the things you'll see that also, firstly, the partnership. So they didn't lose wickets in a bunch. They never lost wickets in a bunch right till the end. Of course, in the end, and it's bound to happen. You have 2-3 overs left. That's bound to happen. But what is important is it's not wicket after wicket, and the way they build those partnerships. So 66 or 83, I think Brook and Root, that was a partnership, and Root Buttler. Those 2 partnerships set up the game in a particular way because they played at a particular standard. And typically, you will see a Joe Root innings, typical ODI innings. He'll start off at 70, 75 because he's coming at some point there normally. And then you'll see if he bats for about 70, 80 balls, he'll come closer and closer to 100, 150. If he crosses, then he'll get further. So that's a very typical Root innings, He starts off with his strike rate, just rotates and hits the occasional boundary. As he gets more confident, he keeps moving closer and closer to 100. And that's the job that they had. And I'm glad that they played it this way, because this is why they brought Joe Root into this team. This is why they said that they need a stability, they need a core to sort of revolve around, and especially in conditions like this.
And if you see that stat again of Joe Root, I think there's just 24 runs of boundaries that he's hit. So it just talks about how much he's rotated the strike, and this is something we're so used to seeing Root play with.
And that's so important in that middle phase. In the middle phase, you need one guy doing that consistently. Then to get 4-5 runs per over, or on good days when odd boundaries are coming, suddenly that goes to 6+. And without losing wicket, if you're able to achieve that and build that partnership, that really sets the tone for the back end, So that phase in the middle, and that's why Root is there. So in spite of having England having and talking about this over-aggressive approach, they've still gone back to Root because they understand the value of that middle phase in this ODI format.
When we're talking about the middle phase, we have to give credit to the way India bowled in that middle phase, because once again, England got off to that start, but we pulled things back pretty well in that middle phase, Joyda.
True, absolutely. I totally agree with you. But I have one problem, and exactly as he pointed out, Duckett. Duckett was the key at that point. What's the other thing? Duckett is a player in form. He's got 60 odd runs. What's equally important? Duckett is the only lefty in that batting lineup. So once Jadeja comes on, if Duckett gets out in the first over, nobody else is going to attack him early. Duckett has the best chance to attack Ravindra Jadeja. He was set. He's a lefty. He has the ball's going to come into him. He has a natural opportunity to play. So once Duckett gets out, I thought they did a very good job under those circumstances.
And there's a nice tactical observation also there. If you look at it today, the stack up of overs, Rohit was consciously holding both the left-arm spinners.
Yeah, he came in
back.
the 16th over.
Varun was bowling, and then he was waiting for that moment. He delayed that decision as late as possible. Now, by Duckett playing that kind of a shot, he's played in hands of Rohit there, because Duckett staying there for maybe 5 overs, 6 overs, once the left-arm spinner is bowling, then it would have been interesting to see how that battle would have panned out, because you're talking about then Akshar and Jadeja bowling together. When two right-handers are there, then suddenly you have that advantage of getting both the left-arm spinners bowling together. That would have been a confusing part. And then you get that much stretched to utilize all your bowling resources and get overs out of everyone.
Well, Rohit won that chess game here today, but we have to really credit Jadeja again. He comes in, once again does it. It's almost like copy-paste from the last game. He came in, got 3 wickets again, 35.
And just see the economy rate. Look, this is 3.5 when your team has gone for over 6 and over. Okay, so the kind of analysis that he's giving you on a consistent basis, and that's what, he doesn't need much, he needs a little bit, he got that early wicket, and just use him as fast as you can. Suddenly 5-6 overs are gone. Suddenly it's 18 in 5 overs. That's a typical Jadeja kind of, this thing. And I think that's the thing, the winning these little moments. Jadeja is the key to India winning the middle over. The 15 to 35 battle, Jadeja is India's key. Jadeja and Chakravarti are what they're depending on.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting because I think they combined well today, even despite whatever England did. And now that Chakravarti is not in the team, I'll be very interested to see what they do, because he's proving to be effective out here. So I don't know what's going to happen further on.
But Zach, again, Jadeja, last game 32 dot balls, this game 30 dot balls. This pitch wasn't turning too much. Do you think it was holding up a little bit, which was helping Jadeja?
Well, if you look at Jadeja's pitch map, that one thing has not changed over the years since the time we've been talking about Jadeja and his improvement at this level and his whole journey as that pitch map. He's just so accurate with that subtle variation in length, which at times is natural as well. But he's aiming to be there, accurate at the stumps. So little bit of natural variation from the pitch. So whatever the conditions are offering, he's one guy who utilizes and maximizes that. So that has been the trend. So he's not looking to think or overthink too much. The plan is pretty simple. For left-handers, there is a certain plan. But when there are two right-handers batting, it's just about, building those deliveries into that, in line with the stumps, and then just doing that subtle variation in pace, subtle variation in lengths, and letting the conditions do the rest of the work for him. Letting the batters force those errors. That's how he's been approaching. So today was no different. And yet another consistent day out for him. And the wicket column is speaking for itself.
Well, Ravindra Jadeja really is copy-paste, because he does the same thing. He's just as effective. But Joyda, the debutant today, Varun, we were talking about how it almost felt like no one could really pick what he was doing. Once again, getting Phil Salt today.
Yeah, he got Phil Salt. I think that's the point. And Phil Salt should have seen a lot of him. Considering they spent in the KKR nets together, they would have seen a lot of him. But I think there are 2-3 things about Varun that really jump out at me. One is, for a player like him to improve himself so much as a fielder, gives you an idea of how desperately he wanted to play for the country. Because even with that kind of fielding, franchise cricket, he would have already survived. But clearly this guy wanted to play for the country, 33 years old, made it there and has really worked very hard on his fitness. So, secondly, most of the England batters, I felt for not reading him. They were just playing for the length and just going forward and seeing whatever happens and just not meeting him close enough. And I think that's the advantage. If you have a bowler like that, there are not too many sides in the world who'll read him very well. Not too many batters in the world who'll read him very well. So again, he's this mystery package that you have who would be really useful in the Champions Trophy. But I think India has now got to figure out how the cards fall.
And on the whole, I felt England batters, they don't have the confidence of playing spinners straight back at them. So for whatever limitations, their go-to option is the sweep shot. And that all the spinners have figured out. So if you look at today's bowling scorecard, you'll see the fast bowlers have gone at a certain pace, and the spinners, they've been very good with their figures. Jadeja, of course, leading that chart, but Varun Chakravarti and Akshar Patel, they've been also very consistent with controlling the English batters, predominantly because they're very well aware of the fact that only sweep is their go-to option. If you cut that out, if you don't give them those deliveries, if you bowl at that pace where it's difficult to get down on your knee and get under the ball or get on top of the ball to play the sweep shot, then you are winning the battle.
Yes.
Because they don't have the confidence. And that's where the dot balls are coming. That's where the pressure is building. And that's how they've been under the skins of English batters.
We spoke about it in the pre-match show. Again, today, 2 slog sweeps getting them out. So it is a sweep. Yeah.
It is a sweep. They because when they can't read, they sweep. See what a class batter like Klaasen does, and what Klaasen does very well, he waits for the turn. And then he has the strength to hit you off the back over your head. And I think those shots, if you can play in the V to a spinner, okay, that means you're reading. And that means either you're reading or you're strong enough to go back and wait for the ball to turn and then do stuff with it. So I think that is something that they just don't have in conditions. In their part of the world, they wouldn't be able to sit back and do that. So I think they're not used to it, so the sweep becomes their default option.
Zach, just moving to Shami now. He's somebody that everyone really has their hopes pinned on him for the Champions Trophy as well. But do you think he was missing that little bit of zip, or do you think it's just lack of match practice?
It's understandable to just, come back after the long layoff, getting back into the rhythm of things. Shami is Shami, his main impact is always going to be with the new ball.
Yes.
So you got to judge him on the basis of what he's doing with the new ball. His success mantra has been to take those wickets up front. So if he's able to do that, and if he's thinking like that, or he's maybe hitting that, missing that length, I would say, little bit, just for him to get back into that zone, where he's backing himself to bowl that length again. That zip is coming from there, that slight bit of movement. Yeah. Because for him also, it's always about having that really prominent seam positioning, getting the ball in the right area, and then there is just little variations of ball coming back in and going away, and using the angles well, So that has been, he has kept things very simple for his bowling. So it's just about getting back to doing that consistently.
Joyda, his seam position is something which we can go on and on for hours, especially with Zach in the studio. Why I was particularly asking about Shami is because as a fan, I'm just a little confused with the team selection. Kuldeep the other day did nothing really wrong. He came in after quite some time. And then there is this picking, dropping. So from you, I want to understand, because you know Gautam Gambhir so well. Do you see a lot of difference between him and the Dravid era?
See, I think the main thing you've got to look at it is that they are reacting, and I think what Gautam will try and say, and that is his mantra, is that nobody is more important than the team, which is not a bad mantra. That nobody is more important than the team. This is the team's need. The team needs to do this. The team needs to see that. But the truth is, players are not perfect. There are very few players like Rahul Dravid that tomorrow you'll make him a keeper, tomorrow you'll make him an opening batter, tomorrow you'll ask him to drive the bus to the stadium. He will do everything because he does it. Most players, what happens is when they moved in and moved out, become insecure. It doesn't matter. So I think what is happening over these last few days is, I am hoping that behind the scenes, they're talking to these players and saying, okay, Kuldeep, you're getting rested now because we want to have a look at Chakravarti just in case Bumrah is not fit. Somebody is having that conversation, or to have that conversation with Yashasvi that, we wanted to try out, but this slot is actually Shreyas. Shreyas, you're going to play in this. Somebody needs to explain to these players exactly what their situation is. if they understand the situation as to why they're playing or why they're not playing, I think after that, they'll be clear in their minds. If they're not being communicated to properly, okay? And exactly the examples I'm saying. Somebody has to tell Kuldeep, this is why Varun is being tried today.
True.
Okay? And this is what needs to happen. Suppose, if Varun is not picked anyway, he's not going to go to the Champions Trophy. Unless somebody drops out, he's not going to go anyway. Right? So these things need to be made clear to the players. If they are made clear, it's okay. We, from the outside, from now, can only look at it and say that players will feel insecure unless somebody is talking to them. And I really hope somebody is.
Because that, again, the same question, Zach, is what happens to Arshdeep then? Because we understand that Shubman did make that statement saying that this is not a warm-up for the Champions Trophy, but for most fans, we look at it as a warm-up for the Champions Trophy. So what happens to someone like Arshdeep? Has the communication gone, or will we see him in the third game, or we see him directly at the Champions Trophy?
See, you're hoping and expecting that the communication is done, because that's the by far the most important thing when you're talking about the preparation or a lead up to any tournament, and especially a tournament like Champions Trophy, which is talked about so much. It's a ICC tournament. The dynamics of ICC tournament and a bilateral series is completely different, isn't it? You are playing the same team again and again. So you have in a bilateral series. So you have a chance of carrying learning on the go. In a tournament like ICC Trophy, it's basically a multi-nation tournament where you will be playing against the nations once, right? So you got to be that much precise, because it's one chance. So you got to be bringing in all the tactics. There are no learnings. Learnings you can carry forward as a group what you've decided. But specifically against a certain individual, that's not going to happen. So you got to be very precise with that planning and the communication. Now, when you're looking at England team as well, we've been talking about them. Like, yes, you got to be ultra aggressive. You got to be, using the dominance as the defense or the attack. So that's the communication. But now there are deeper levels in that as well. If you're dominating, okay, as a batter, what are your options? So all those things apply here as well when you're talking about the Indian team. If you're saying that you've decided that yes, you got to do it for the team, that's what we are talking about. So after that, what?
Yes.
You said that okay, you got to have the flexibility. The number 1, 2 will be there, but then others are going to be flexible. Now, within that flexibility as well, there are some rules apply.
Yes, exactly.
There are certain protocols which you have to follow. There's certain communication which needs to happen, which is going to streamline things. Otherwise, you are creating insecurity, which is at some stage going to come back and hurt you, where you don't want it to be the case. So you got to be prepared to deal with that situation. So you can't, and that's why I said, recency bias is something which is very strong right now. The situations and conditions with regard to many things right now is become dynamic if you have to compare, say, Rahul Dravid's approach or a Gautam Gambhir's approach. But now that's how it is.
Yeah.
And you can either say that, okay, it's good or bad or ugly, or you say that, okay, how do we adapt? So each individual right now, which is part of this system, be it the senior management, be it the think tank, be it the selectors, be it the players, they'll also have to try and get the gauge of it and streamline things within the system for the wheel to turn properly. Otherwise you'll have some hindrance, some problems coming at some stage. The results are still going in your favor.
Yes.
The white ball dominance is still seen. You've seen players being flexible enough to go in different things. But you have to still try and address those. Like, Shreyas, what he said after the first game that I was not supposed to be part of. Now, obviously, he's also going to be feeling all those things that I've been so consistent, I've been scoring runs. Then why should I be right now be facing this situation? What have I done wrong? Kuldeep, the same story. Yes, Varun is bowling very well. But now, is it fair?
Yes.
For him to be rested for this game? And then is it fair that he's been part of the Champions Trophy? Then how are you going to manage that? So the other side of management also going to be equally important, whether it's happening, not happening. We will know in time.
We'll know in time. And what you spoke about Shreyas, we'll just have a look at what he had to say, because we saw what he said in the post-match. He said, I got a call from skipper saying that you may play because Virat has a swollen knee. The same thing happened to me last year during the Asia Cup. I got injured and someone else came and he scored a century. So it's exactly what Zach is saying, Joyda, is that you're playing well. He's been the highest run getter since 2020, the third highest run getter since 2020, and he's still not sure whether he's in or he's not in.
Yeah, and we were just talking about the irony of it, that India, every time a tournament comes up, we're talking about number 4.
That
number 4 batter for Indian. Now we found a number 4 batter. He's not sure whether he's going to play at number 4 or not. So I think that's it. That's what I think it's important, because see, what are we seeing from the outside? So if I look at the outside, say the bowling, what we are saying is Shami needs to keep bowling. So every match Shami needs to keep bowling because we need him in some sort of rhythm. So they're trying to get him into rhythm. They're trying to give him opportunities. Why am I bowling Harshit? Why is Harshit and Varun playing? Because we feel that Bumrah is not, we are not 100% sure of Bumrah's fitness. So we have two options. Here's a hit the deck bowler option. Here's a spinner option. Either of these two options we'll use. This seems to be from the outside the message.
Yeah.
But then there are some things which even Zach spoke about. It's like that Shami's strength, for example, is not the bowling the final overs. So either Hardik comes in or you hold some of Varun's over. Varun has bowled, even in the IPL, he's bowled death over. Okay. So then you say that, okay, Varun is my designated death bowler. Okay. So-and-so is my designated. So right now, we are not also clear. Shami is also not probably clear in his head whether he's a death bowler or not. And by and large, nobody, for a long time, we have not used him. We have used him as an opening bowler. We've used him in the middle. He's not generally known to bowl at the death. So it's, we are trying to, we are still from the outside. We are only trying to second guess people. But I hope that inside the team, they're not trying to second guess each other.
As long as they internally know what's happening, and probably they're just trying things around before the big ICC tournament. Do you think that's what is happening?
No, even if they're trying, it's absolutely fine to try out. I mean, whatever, they're fully entitled to do what they really feel as tactics, right? But in the process, you can't ignore certain things. So there are terms and conditions which apply with addressing certain plans, right? So as long as you're ticking those boxes, you will stay on track. You will not go off the track. You will not see the downside of things. So that is something which is very important for them to know. From the outside, we can only judge. From outside, we can only try and do the guesswork, do the thing, try and put the logic to the thinking, right? But when it comes to being part of the dressing room, being part of the system, if you are the stakeholder in that, then you should be able to tick all those boxes to make sure that everyone knows what we're trying to achieve. Other than that, you will create some communication gap at some stage. If you're missing a piece, then it will catch up at some stage.
Well, Joyda, like you were saying, that number 4 position, we saw what Shreyas did in the last match. Beautiful knock. India will be chasing down 304. What do you think India's approach is going to be? Also coming back to Rohit, is that going to be playing on the last game? He didn't quite do what he would have expected to. So you think he'll come out aggressive again?
See, I think India has to come out aggressive for no other reason but for the fact that in this pitch, if you don't come out aggressive, chasing 300 on a pitch which is going to get slower and lower, you're in trouble. So India will come out aggressive. There's no doubt in my mind. Question is after, 1 wicket also, I'll probably stay aggressive. I think up to 2 wickets, they'll stay aggressive in that first 10. Only if they lose more than that will they sort of shut down the hatches. But when you're chasing 300, you're not going to be able to shut the, close down and just hit the ball round for too long, And it's important that while the ball is new, while the ball is hard, they get as many runs as possible. And again, I think Rohit, it's a question of Rohit just freeing his mind and doing what he does. He's just had a horrible set of, bad luck. And circumstances, he's just got to play his way out of it. There's no other way.
Well, someone who's been playing very well is you, Joyda, because you won the prediction game the day before yesterday, and you get one again today.
So my only worry, the only worry that Zach and I had was Zach was covered till 295. I started at 301. So those 6, it shouldn't fall between us. The ball should be like between two.
Now we need to play like a team. So Zach, go for it.
Oh, for the prediction?
Yes.
I think in the first and 70.
I'm going to go high.
Oh, I want to go higher.
79. I'm really going high.
That's a good one.
70, 79, I'll go with... I mean, I was going to go with 78, but I'll go with 86.
Wow.
Just because we've a high ball
Yeah, so
and have fun with it.
Yeah. We are covered from that sense. So
Yeah,
we are
we're covered
from,
as a team. That's what
Yeah.
matters.
See, since India has bowled first on this pitch, they
Yes.
know that back 10 maybe
Tricky.
might be that easy. So you got to cover for that from before. So I think the first power play is going to be an aggressive one.
You all have heard it from Zach. He knows how it is to play on this pitch. So let's hope India make the most of the first 10 overs and seal it with a win and win the series by the time we are back. But we will see you all at the 15th over point at the Cricbuzz Combox. So do join us there.